now been taught to look at our heart rate, to look at our power, to look at our speed, our cadence, our velocity, our running, all the running form data, and your sleep and everything else. So, how are you educating athletes to look at their glucose? And is everybody's good glucose level is different for them? Like everyone's individual, right?
Yes, very much so.
So yeah, as an athlete, what am I looking for, and how do I use this data?
Yeah, and that's where I think we, like what we're starting to do now is we're kicking off a Super Sapiens University, and we're going to work with some of the preeminent coaches in the world to begin on what is the education that you need, like to feel confident in helping your clients, your athletes, know how to utilize glucose for performance. And so we had an athlete, again, who broke a world record last week on the technology, and the week before we did, there was a little test event where we did half of it, and it was all about finding out what is the most glucose you can put into your blood, like tolerate ingesting. And he found he could take in 150 grams of carbs an hour, and that allowed him to have the glucose level where he felt great, which was 160.
Okay.
And so he found that his target glucose for optimal power output was 160. Now, I've seen other athletes, who, like Bobby Julich and George Hincapie, they were doing a gravel race together. And those guys, they both had an average of 178 and 172 respectively for a 3.5 hour gravel race. And it's
right.
We're starting to, and then others, so there's, like, if you want to go do call it a fat adaptive workout, right? Or base training,
right.
You don't need glucose in the 160s for base workouts. I used to,
like zone 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can get away with a glucose of 90, 100, 110 in those workouts. But if you're going out for an interval session or you're going to do lactic,
lactic threshold training. Yeah.
Then you need to find the glucose level that's going to allow you to perform the best. And, is it, like, when do you have your last meal, right? And there's always been, I have the gel, 15 minutes before you start. People do that. That's a disaster. Why? Because you take a gel and then it spikes your glucose, and then you start exercising, which, your insulin's reacting to the spike as you begin to exercise, and exercise kind of gives you a 4x power to your insulin. This is not scientifically validated, but it's in my own observation. So you take a gel 15 minutes before you start working out, you get a big crash. And then that's going to cause you to dip into your reserves right off the bat. So what we found is that about 8 minutes into exercise is the good time to start fueling. And,
oh, wow.
And you start taking in calories at that point, you can stabilize your glucose performance zone and then be the best of yourself, right? And I guess look, we're all born with a different set of physiological capabilities, right? And there's, Chris Froome, who, has a VO2 max of like 85. Yeah, he was born with that, but he also trained to push it higher. And then there's people who have a VO2 max of 50, but they, whatever, you are who you are, and it's all about being the best of yourself. And whether you've got call it a Honda Civic as your engine, or a Ferrari as your engine, you got one thing in common, that if there's no gas in the tank, you're both going the same speed. And so we want you to have the right amount of gas in your tank so you can be the best of yourself. And, you're going to have to do some trial and error, going to have to do some experiments, and, if it's a 10K run or if it's a threshold workout, you try it 1 week with one fueling strategy, see how your watts were, see how your power output was, see how you felt, then do that exact same workout the next week with a different fueling strategy, and then see, what was your glucose, what was your wattage, how did you feel?
And how did you feel? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing, is how did you feel?
Yes.
And people keep finding that when they have the right amount of glucose in their blood, they feel better, they go faster. And, when you do that and you come home from a workout having achieved your targets, what do? You smile, you're happy. You want to tell someone about that. And you tell enough people about how great it felt to exercise, then they're going to start exercising. And then,
yeah.
It's like
This
pay-
is game changing. This is
Yeah.
like game changing for recreational athletes, age groupers. I mean, it's not just the pros, because I mean, I know so many people, including myself, although I think I overeat when I'm out on the course because I'm afraid I'm going to undereat. But I've seen so many really amazing athletes bonk on the course, or like, you know, they get out of the swim and they're like, oh, I'm not hungry, I'm just going to get on the bike. And then they're like on the bike and they're not hungry. And then by the time they're like getting on the run, they're bonking and they can't do the run. And then they're like not finishing, DNFing, or they finish and they're destroyed. And I think, you know, I think everybody can benefit from this, but I think there's specifically people who don't know enough about nutrition. And I'm sure that I probably could eat less, and then maybe I would spend less time eating on the bike and pedaling, but that's what I do.
It's possible, but yeah, you're going to learn here in the next couple of weeks.